You can feel it in how the Cowboys lined up against the Raiders. Small but meaningful changes that tell you the coaches finally decided to stop waiting for perfect personnel and start forcing the issue to fix the areas that hurt them most. At a glance, the headlines are simple. More five-man fronts, new snap count priorities up front, and a deliberate shift toward zone coverage. And all of that flows from the same problem the Cowboys have had this year. The run defense was getting gashed, and the team needed to protect the interior even if it meant sacrificing a little of the pass rush balance. So right away, I want you to do two quick things. Type me in the comments if you want Dallas to beat Philly, and if you're into breakdowns like this, hit subscribe. We're trying to push to 16,000 subscribers, and every new sub helps get these daily deep dives out to more fans like you. The tape shows the Cowboys deploying roughly 8 five-man front snaps in that game, and they did it with a handful of personnel mixes. That matters because it tells you they aren't experimenting with one power look. They're trying variations to see what answers the run. The common theme was prioritizing beef inside. Kenny Clark as a true nose-type presence in those packages, Osa and Quinn rotating to clog gaps, and then sliding Clowney and Ezeraku, the top two edge pieces, around that beefier interior. What jumped out to me was James Houston's snap uptick. He actually outsnapped Sam Williams and Dante Fowler in this matchup, which signals the staff's growing trust in him as more than just a situational sack-getter. I'll break down why that matters in the next chapter, but for now think of this week as Dallas trying to buy sturdier run defense right away. Quick interaction for you while I set up the next segment. Who is your pick for the Cowboys' third edge rusher behind Clowney and Ezeraku? JH for James Houston, SW for Sam Williams, or DF for Dante Fowler? Drop the letters in the comments and tell me why in one line. And if you like that quick checklist, smash the like button so more fans see this breakdown. The next thing we need to talk about is one of the clearest indicators that Mike Zimmer and this defensive staff are not afraid to shake things up: the defensive end rotation. If you watched closely, you probably noticed the Cowboys leaning heavily on Donovan Ezeraku and Jadeveon Clowney as their top two edges. And honestly, that part makes perfect sense. Those two have been the most consistent at setting the edge, holding up against the run, and still generating pressure without sacrificing discipline. But what really stood out was just how much the Cowboys expanded the role of James Houston in this game. He jumped all the way up to 28 snaps, outplaying both Sam Williams and Dante Fowler in total usage. And that raises a very interesting question. Was this a test run to see if Houston can hold up in a larger role? Or was this simply about the Raiders throwing the ball so much that Dallas felt comfortable unleashing him as an extra rusher? The truth is probably somewhere in between. The staff clearly loves Houston's knack for turning limited snaps into meaningful production. When a guy consistently shows up on the stat sheet despite not playing a ton, at some point you have to give him a chance to prove whether he can sustain that impact over a bigger workload. That's what this felt like. Now Sam Williams still got work, especially on early downs, and he played a role in the safety, which the coaches will absolutely appreciate. But you can tell they're worried about his inconsistencies against the run. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, it's pretty clear the Cowboys have fully committed to using Dante Fowler as a pure pass rush specialist. 11 snaps, 3 pressures. That's the definition of a designated pass rusher. They're no longer putting him in positions where he has to worry about run fits or edge containment. They're basically saying, go get the quarterback and go home. That's the entire job description. And for you, the fan watching all of this, the real question becomes this: who should be that third defensive end behind Clowney and Ezeraku? Is it the flash and sack production of James Houston? Is it the athletic upside of Sam Williams? Or is it the efficient pressure per snap weapon in Dante Fowler? If you had to pick one right now, who would it be? It's the kind of decision that tells you how aggressive or conservative this defense wants to be heading into matchups that matter. I want you to drop your answer in the comments because it genuinely helps me understand how you view this rotation. Just type JH for James Houston, SW for Sam Williams, or DF for Dante Fowler. I always read those. And if you're enjoying this breakdown and want more daily Cowboys content just like this, consider subscribing to help the channel push toward our goal of 16,000 subscribers. Those numbers really do help the show keep growing, and it tells me you want more deep dive film and scheme conversations. Just hit that button and keep riding with me. Before we move on, I'll tell you this. The rotation at edge is one of the clearest signs that this coaching staff is still experimenting. They're still trying to figure out what the right mix of upside, reliability, and situational play looks like. And the decisions they make here will directly impact how they defend mobile quarterbacks and RPO-heavy teams moving forward. That sets us up perfectly for what comes next, because the linebacker group might be even more unpredictable than the defensive ends. Now let's get into the position group that might end up defining whether this defense stabilizes or continues to fluctuate from week to week. The linebackers. Because what we saw in this game wasn't just rotation for conditioning or situational reasons. It was very clearly a deliberate attempt to evaluate who can be trusted against better offenses. And that tells you the staff still doesn't have a locked-in answer at this spot. DeMarvion Overshown was on what looked like a controlled pitch count, landing at just over 30 snaps. You could tell the staff wanted him active, but they didn't want to overexpose him. And honestly, that's probably the right move considering the type of game this was. Overshown brings juice no one else in the room has, especially when it comes to spying mobile quarterbacks or attacking horizontally. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see his snaps spike depending on the opponent, especially against teams that put stress on the edges. Then there's Kenneth Murray, who started the game but didn't finish with the highest snap total. That honor went to Logan Wilson, who outsnapped him despite coming off the bench. That alone tells you everything about where the staff's trust currently lies. Murray has the athletic profile, he has the burst, he has the speed. But the Cowboys are at a point defensively where upside doesn't matter as much as being where you're supposed to be every single play. Wilson isn't as explosive, but he's calmer, more disciplined, more assignment sound. And with this defense shifting toward heavier zone concepts, that steadiness starts to matter a whole lot more. And this is where things get interesting. Both Murray and Wilson were wearing the green dot at different points, meaning both were involved in communication. That's not something you typically see unless a rotation is intentional and not just situational. So the question becomes, do the Cowboys continue splitting snaps this evenly? Or are we approaching a moment where one of them secures the job outright? If you're watching this, I want to know who you'd lean toward right now. Just drop LW for Logan Wilson or KM for Kenneth Murray in the comments. It helps me gauge where fans stand on this, and I think this is one of the biggest conversations of the week. And before we move forward, if you're liking this kind of detailed breakdown and you want more of it, don't forget to subscribe and help us push toward that 16,000 subscriber goal. Every new subscriber genuinely helps the channel grow and keeps this content coming every single day. This linebacker rotation leads directly into another position group that saw changes that most fans probably didn't expect, and that's the safety room. And what we saw there might be one of the most important long-term developments on the entire defense. Another area where the Cowboys quietly made a significant shift was at safety, and this one might have the biggest long-term impact on the defense. The expectation coming in was that Malik Hooker would have no limitations and return to his usual workload, but instead we saw something different. Marist Bell playing a surprising amount of snaps. When you look at the usage, it was basically 2/3 going to Hooker and Donovan Wilson combined, and about 1/3 going to Bell. And that is not a small number for a young player who, realistically, was expected to be more of a situational piece this early in the season. What makes this particularly interesting is the way Bell was used. It wasn't just garbage time reps or late drive rotation. These were meaningful snaps with real responsibilities. And when you look at how the Cowboys have been adjusting their coverage identity, leaning heavily into zone, a player like Bell becomes a very intriguing weapon. He has a different kind of range than Wilson, and he has a different kind of physicality than Hooker. There's a versatility there that the staff clearly wants to explore. Now, I'm not telling you Bell is about to take somebody's job, but you don't give a young player that many snaps by accident, especially not in a week where both Hooker and Wilson were actually playing some of their best football of the season. In fact, their performances against the Raiders, and even earlier, matchups showed real improvement. That's the part that should catch your attention. When your veterans are playing well and the staff still makes room for the rookie, it means they see something they want to develop right now, not later. The big question for you is whether this was a one-week experiment or the beginning of a long-term trend. Are the Cowboys grooming Bell to eventually take over one of these starting roles? Or is this more about having a specific package built for him? Let me know what you think. Should Bell continue getting this expanded workload? Just drop a simple yes or no in the comments, because I really want to see where the fan base stands on this. And while you're here, if you're enjoying how deep we're going into these defensive adjustments, make sure you hit that subscribe button to help this channel push toward our goal of 16,000 subscribers. Every new subscription is a huge boost, and lets me keep breaking down the film and the coaching decisions in real time. This shift at safety ties directly into the final phase of the defensive changes we need to talk about, because the Cowboys didn't just shuffle their linebackers and safeties. They also made important tweaks at cornerback, including decisions about who plays, who doesn't, and what types of coverages they're preparing for as they move forward. All right, let's wrap this up and give you the clear takeaways you can use when you watch the next Cowboys game. First, these adjustments felt purposeful, not panicked. The staff prioritized shoring up the interior and buying the defense time to react. More five-man fronts, Kenny Clark as a nose presence in those packages, Osa and Quinn rotating to clog lanes, and they accepted some situational trade-offs on pure pass rush aggressiveness to get there. Second, the edge rotation is now a live experiment. James Houston getting heavier snaps signals the staff trusts his high-impact playmaking. Sam Williams remains a core, early down piece despite his run struggles, and Dante Fowler is being used as a true designated pass rusher on clear passing downs. That trio gives Dallas flexibility, but it also means consistency is going to be the deciding factor on how reliable the front looks against top opponents. Third, the linebacker room is in flux, and that matters. The split between Logan Wilson and Kenneth Murray, plus Overshown's controlled pitch count, tells you the staff values assignment-sound play over upside in tight matchups. If Wilson continues to be the steadier communicator, expect him to see critical snaps in key moments. Fourth, the defensive backroom adjustments, especially Maris Bell getting a real third of the snaps, indicate the staff wants versatility in the secondary to support a zone-heavy scheme. That zone tilt paid some dividends in lowering opponent EPA per play in that stretch, which is exactly what you want if you're trying to limit big plays and keep games within reach. So, what's the grade? I'd give the defensive tweaks a cautious B, not perfect but directionally correct. They addressed clear weaknesses and gave guys like James Houston and Maris Bell a chance to prove they can be more than situational pieces. Now the three specific things I want you to watch next game. 1. How often Dallas calls those five-man fronts on early downs versus obvious short yardage. 2. Whether Houston's snap share remains elevated or reverts. And 3. How the Cowboys handle critical third down situations. Do they lean zone, or do they mix in more man to confuse quarterbacks? Quick fan poll while you think about that. Do these changes make you feel better about Dallas's defense? Type yes or no in the comments. Also drop a one-sentence grade for the defense so I can pin the best takes in the community tab. If you found this useful, hit like and subscribe to help the channel reach our goal of 16,000 subscribers. Every new sub keeps these deep dives coming, daily.